Good morning. I had such an overwhelming response and a lot of views here on my Huina dump truck conversion. I really was just showing how that dump truck actually operated and all. So I thought I would spend a little bit of time and go over actually the modifications that I did to make this all work. And so what I have here, this is some of the plastics that were in that and some of the gears that were in that Huina dump truck that I actually ended up scrapping and getting rid of. So I don't need any of these parts anymore. You just get rid of all of that. But I took the top half of this is still being used here on my conversion. So then what I did is I have a WPL dump truck here, or I mean military truck here, and this is basically what I married to the bottom of that Huina dump truck. The wheelbase was almost identical, and so this was basically modifying and taking this truck apart and putting that frame on this Huina dump truck. So as part of my modifications, of course, they had this lift cylinder here that really doesn't do anything. So of course that goes away. Here's the Huina control, and it was horrible. And in the front, they had this huge counterweight, all these weights in the front. They're very, very heavy up here in the front of the truck. So you lose all of that, get rid of all of those. And then they had these really hard plastic wheels. It had no suspension whatsoever, and it would get stuck in the carpet. The next thing was the dump bed would not go up high enough to dump the contents, whatever you had put in the back of the bed, you couldn't dump it out. So those were some of the things that were really irritating about this truck when I got it. So you can see here, this is the frame from the WPL dump truck, and then this is the frame with the fender wells for the Huina dump truck. And then this right here is my spacer here, and I used, this is a 1/2 inch thick by 3/8 inch wide piece of bar stock, and that bar stock is probably about 8 inches long. It goes to right here. And what I did was I milled out openings here in the bottom, kind of to lighten up the aluminum here. But you can see right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that actually hold this frame to my adapter plate that I made. And then right here, you can see there's 1 hole here, 1 here, 1 here, and then there should be 1 in the back here that actually attached to the bolt holes where you took this plastic frame, where these were all attached to this plastic on the upper half. So that's really what I did here to marry this frame to the Huina frame. And then I took some of the accessories like the fuel tanks and the air tanks and you know, a few other things that I wanted to add to it. And then now I have a suspension here, and as part of my modifications to my WPL military truck, I used metal drive lines. It's just basically a little kit like this that you get to convert those plastic drive lines to metal drive lines. And because I wanted this thing to be go over everything, I actually locked up the rear end, so there's no differentials here anymore. So it's all a true 6-wheel drive. So then I put a high amperage motor in here and a transmission. So this truck actually has a 2-speed transmission, which it did not originally come with. So then, because I got rid of all of this electronics from Huina that was just terrible, I actually use my Fly Sky controller and a 10-channel receiver up here in the cab. And how I actually got the cab to stay on, the back half bolts onto the adapter plate, but the adapter plate only goes this far, so it doesn't go all the way up to the front, because I couldn't get around these front fenders for the cab. So what I did was I took a piece of 3/4 by 1/4 inch bar stock, and basically here's basically some frame rails from WPL, and I laminated right here, similarly to this. I laminated those frames. This is my frame pieces. I put that bar stock in here and I drilled holes, and these fasteners are what hold the whole front cab assembly on this frame. Now, also, you had to get in front here of this truck, and what I did was you had screws that actually went through to hold this on. Well, I didn't want to mess with the screws every time I went to put my batteries or change a battery, so basically this is how you came off, and then the batteries, I put my batteries in the front here. So here's my battery and my connector. Hopefully that's not, there we go. So that's my battery. But what I did was, instead of using screws to hold this front cover on, I put in here these little rare earth magnets, and then rare earth magnets in the cover right here. And so when you slide the battery into, this is my 3D printed battery box here, you put everything in, then you put the front on, get it all lined up, get it in, and then it just snaps on and is held in place by those rare earth magnets. So you have to get rid of all the steering mechanism for this WPL military truck, and then I get a linkage, where'd they go? There. I basically get a linkage kit to convert, and you're going to get rid of all the steering parts from WPL and update that truck for the servos. And then this is the servo mounting bracket that slides in the frame. So basically these frame parts, these frame rails, bolt on here in this kit, and then you put on your micro servo and a steering linkage to convert the WPL over. So with just a little micro servo, but you just have this plate kit that goes between the frame. So, and then you'll need some extensions for servos to run to the back. And in my original video, when I ran this, I had one micro servo to raise the dump bed, but what I found out was that one micro servo wasn't strong enough to lift the bed up when it was actually loaded fairly heavily. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. Whoops, turn the transmitter on first. transmitter's on. Then I have the switch. And so what I had to do here is I used, I started with a 20 amp electronic speed controller without brake, and this is a brushed motor. So this is an electronic speed controller. The 20 amp was just not enough. So I ended up with a 30 amp electronic speed controller, and so this is the switch that I just turned on, and that this is where my battery supply connects, and then this goes, of course, to the motor. So you need one of those, and you'll need 2 of these micro servos. And then also, I wanted the headlights to work on this dump truck, so I needed an electronic switch. And so this is from Apex RC, and I purchased most of these parts on eBay. And so we get this turned on. So I got an indicator here, my receiver's on, and so we're going to go ahead and we're going to raise this dump bed, and I used this on my C switch, and I have 2 positions for it, halfway, and this is about as far as it would go with the original Huina dump, so it just wouldn't empty the dump bed. So when I flip it all the way down now, the dump bed goes all the way up, and so here are my 2 micro servos, and this is the original bed. I really didn't have to do any modifications here, just a long bolt and some spacers to space out these servos. One of the things that I did have to do, however, let's lower this dump bed down. We'll do it all the way. And then we're going to go over here, and then on the end right here, I actually had, to get this to go up all the way, I had to cut away some of this material right here and here, and then cut the back end of the frame off so that this dump bed would go all the way up. Otherwise, it wouldn't go up all the way. So right here, this is the original WPL back end of the military truck, and this is the back of my spacer, and this is one of the bolts that fastens to the Huina frame, lower frame, and then my spacer plate, and then the fasteners, like I said, right here. This is one of the fasteners that bolt the WPL to my divider plate. So originally, this was attached to the dump truck, and this is about as high as it would go. If you see, this is that, basically that fake lift cylinder for that original dump truck, and it went clear up here, and this is as high as it would go. So that was basically my modification. This was just for looks. Also, I got on eBay from, this is a WPL. I had this space here where I got rid of this fake hydraulic cylinder. That gave me a spot. I just got the, for the military truck, this is a spare tire and a spare tire holder that I got off of eBay, and I just added it between the cab and the dump bed. And so that was one of my things that I did. Oh, also, in order to get the end gate to open up all the way to dump when you raise it up, this is what raises, this rod raises the dump gate when the dump bed goes up. It originally attached to right here, and it was not long enough. So some of the plastic that I took away, I kind of married this together, bolted this extension on, and then that way the end gate will open up all the way. when it raises up all the way. So that was some of the changes that I made. So we're going to lower this back down. And again, so as that's coming down, I'm going to put this front back on. And if you see, this it just puts on and then it just snaps in place. Now on my controller, I put on my light switch, which is this little kit right here, this from Apex. I put it to my A switch, and that turns on my headlights. So that was this switch. So electronic speed controller, light switch, 2 servos, driveline kit, servo mount, and then on the bottom here again, when I turn this over, my second servo is right here, and this is a 2-speed transmission that I added to the the military truck, and then the high torque motor. I needed that high torque motor because now it's a little heavier with my spacer plate, but that's why I thought you really didn't need all these counterweights that they had in the front end. On my tires, this is the tires that you get with that WPL military truck. So the whole truck is a little bit heavier. So I put foam rubber inside the tires to give it a little bit more buoyancy here, so it wouldn't flatten the tires a little bit. And it kind of looks a little funny as a dump truck, and I haven't done it yet, but I found another set of tires, and I'm thinking about putting these tires on for the rear in place of these tires. However, they're a little bit bigger around, so I hope that won't affect my drive, but they are wider than the original tires on the WPL military truck. So that's really my version here. I wanted to show you what I had done to this conversion to convert Huina, this top part, to the WPL. I think JJRC is another company. JJRC makes very similar to the WPL trucks. Transmission, steel drive lines, locked all the differentials up. However, I probably should have not locked the front differential. It makes it a little bit tougher to steer, but it is 2-speed, and so right now we're on here. So there's the drive. And then steering, left and right steering here, all on my controller, where the old original Huina was right here steering, that's it, and then forward and back, and then this is how you had to hold this button and raise and lower the dump. It was terrible. So anyway, that's my updated part 2, basically, to show you really what I did to convert my Huina dump truck to a 6x6 all-wheel drive dump truck. And it really will go outside and in the dirt and in the lawn, and then with the 2-speed transmission, when you get a nice heavy load in the dump bed, you can shift into first gear and go over some pretty rough terrain. So anyway, you have a suspension where you didn't before, which is kind of nice addition. So those are really some of the parts that I used and some of the things that I did to convert my truck. So thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and again, thank you for watching.